What's up, everybody? Welcome to Investing in Cannabis. I'm your host, Brandon David. If you're a fan of this show, if you watch the show all the time, well, thank you. Awesome. If you're not, it's your first time, this is a show we talk to early stage founders, we talk to investors, lawmakers, people helping move the movement forward. Move the movement forward. You like that? But in the most business and professional way possible. That's exactly what we have here today. Awesome founder with us today. One of the most dynamic in cannabis that I've come across. And this is episode, I think, 19 or 20 or something. So producer's shaking his head, yes, 19 or 20.
Are you ever sure exactly which episode it is?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. Yeah,
it's a rough estimate.
Well, we like kind of make a schedule, and anyway, production notes. If you watch the show, we've talked about delivery over and over again. It's almost been commoditized at this piece. You also know that I work at a company that makes delivery software. So shout out On Fleet. We're in the On Fleet conference room right now. Mind the ping pong table. But anyway, there's a whole new element to delivery, which is B2B delivery, right? We have to get it from the farmers or the producers to the dispensary so that fine people like yourself can go get it, right? So this is a whole new batch of delivery companies, a whole new segment, and today we have the very best of them, the one that's far ahead anybody else, to be honest. I might be a little biased. We made friends before the show. But please welcome from Tradiv, Aeron. How you doing, man?
I'm doing
well. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's great.
Good stuff. So tell us, what's Tradiv?
Yeah, sure. So Tradiv, I suppose, at a more conceptual level, is what you call a disintermediary platform. So there's a lot of disintermediary platforms out there. Amazon, to some extent, is a disintermediary platform. You get to buy goods a little bit closer to the producer, which then, of course, achieves you a lower consumer cost. So in cannabis and many other industries, both in the black market and the white market, typically you have a producer, and then you have a retailer, and the entity that exists in between the two that sort of makes all that happen is a distributor. Mm-hmm. And this isn't too surprising that we still use this model. I mean, we've been using this model from the beginning of time. This is how trade sort of started. And technology has done a lot of things for us, but in the 90s we had the dot-com sort of burst, the bubble burst, and we weren't exactly sure how powerful technology was. But now I think we're sitting at a much better vantage point. We know what technology can do, we know what its limitations are now, and we know what we can build. And at this juncture in time, what we've built is a technology solution that replaces that distributor. And so we tie in with third-party transportation companies in the cannabis industry. Of course, we tie in with labs so that all of those different steps in the supply chain that distributor would normally provide for you, we've done it in a much more efficient manner with technology. And it really allows you to sort of pick a la carte what it is you want to pay for, what level of service do you want. And so we achieve distribution costs from anywhere between 1.5 and about 9% at the max. At the max. That's delivered, that's tested, that's distributed, right? In the past.
And what would a number? Yeah, what would a number have been previously?
Right. So distributors in the past, you will never find one less than 20. Typically more like 30, and sometimes as high as 40. Both in the cannabis industry and without.
And what's been cut out there specifically?
A lot of heavy pieces, right? And a lot of inefficiency. A lot of inefficiency that at one point provided efficiency. Meaning, I've got to move goods across the entire United States, and I don't really have a technology solution that can do that for me. That requires a lot of staff, that requires sales and marketing, that requires partnerships, that requires logistics, that requires a lot of really heavy stuff. Our total assets in the company are probably somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000, and I think that's mostly computer and design equipment for our graphic designer and UX UI designer.
Yep.
What we do is we tie in with other companies that their sole mission is to do transportation the best that they can. Sales and marketing, where their sole mission is to do sales and marketing as best as they can. And when we become the hub that ties those together and becomes the center or point of trade, that wields a lot of power and a lot of capability for the businesses that we represent. But you don't have to do it with heavy assets. You do it with technology and APIs with partners.
Yeah, so that philosophy is near and dear to my heart.
Right, yeah.
As a member of On Fleetwood, my whole sales pitch is basically let you focus on what you do really well.
That's right.
And it's interesting that you're passing that along now to the cannabis industry,
right.
Which traditionally is very non-technical.
That's true.
How do you deal with that? I mean, how do you convince someone that, that doesn't use computers every day that they should?
So it's traditional change management. You've got a system in place, and even though it's bad, it's what's in place and it's what people are sort of used to, right? And everyone wants to improve. It's not that people don't recognize that technology is the solution, but taking a staff and mobilizing them to do something completely different, that's a challenge, you know. And so it is a struggle initially with our customers to sort of bridge that gap between, you know, this completely new concept and what you've been doing for 5 and in some cases 20 years. But what we found is that it takes about 4 orders. 4 orders. So the first order, everyone's really skeptical. Is this going to work? How's this? Like, I've never done this before. And it works. And
so we're talking about a dispensary, right?
Yeah, correct, right, yeah.
So they hear about, where do they typically hear about you?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
So we do some marketing, we do public relations, and we do all those things. But typically it's
so they hear about Tradiv, they read about Canopy or whatever,
it is,
and
right.
and then they say, okay, let me try this, and they jump on there, and it's kind of like an Etsy type view to it, right? I mean, it's e-commerce, but B2B, that's what we're talking about here. And then what is their main piece of feedback immediately? I mean, what do they like about it? What they don't like about it? You know,
right.
What's the...
So typically people don't know what to expect. They just ordered $35,000 worth of cannabis through a platform, and they're wondering, is it going to arrive? And then the transportation company we're tied in with delivers it, and they take the money back to the seller, and everyone's like,
it worked.
It worked,
Yeah.
right? Oh my gosh, you know, the world is my oyster, right? And so then they're back on and they try it again, and they're a little less skeptical. This time we don't get calls from both parties, right? This time we see the transaction occur.
It was $35K. This is okay, right?
Right.
Like,
right. And so we do that, and after the third one, they really like it and they want to use it more. And after the fourth one, they don't want to use anything else. And so we've got a couple great customers, some of our first customers. I mean, one of our best producers just did. They did $350,000 through the system in less than 2 weeks, with one of those orders being over 90,000.
Wow!
And
what's a typical order?
35,000.
35,000.
Yeah. And so you know, they put that through, and now they have absolute confidence that it's going to work because they know there's a staff making sure that it does, and they don't have to worry about that anymore. But it's easy for us to do that because we have a system and a process and a technology platform in place to do that at scale. And so we can do it for a lot of businesses for a very small amount of money.
Yeah. So on that 35K order, how much does Tradiv get out of that?
Off that 35K, I have to get out a calculator.
Round numbers are fine.
Yeah, I think so. Off a 35K order, we would probably make about $700.
Got it. And how is that formula constructed? How did you come to that?
So what we try to do is we actually charge a flat rate on the type of product, right? And that rate is sort of how much effort it takes for us to make that transaction happen. If you have a packaged product and it never changes, meaning that whether the inventory is 10 now and you reproduce them and the inventory is 150, in either case, the post remains the same, right? It's the same packaged product. But if you're selling flower, it's much more dynamic. From one grow cycle to the next, it's going to change per strain or phenotype. From one production cycle to the next, the strains you're going to grow are going to change. You know, it's very dynamic, and so, you know, it's a little.
And that opens a different question. I mean, is there any seasonality to it?
Absolutely. It's actually kind of funny. It's like clockwork. What's popular in California will be popular in most other states one grow cycle later. What's popular? Put it in the ground. It's interesting. It's like clockwork too.
Well, I feel blessed to be a native Californian.
Well, I know. California, it's so funny. We're still ahead of the trends line, not in concentrates, but flower certainly.
Yeah. What do you think, where do we fall behind in the concentrate?
I think it's, to be quite frank, I think it's sophistication with regulation. Regulation allows you to do more legitimate, larger operations using things like BHO in a safe manner, which allows you to R&D a little bit more efficiently, right? A little more effectively. And that's, with everyone knows that in California you can consume concentrates, you can sell concentrates, but it's not quite clear if you can produce concentrates. So of course, that being in the back of every producer's mind is they're a little quiet about it, they're a little careful. You're not going to get a 7,000 or 75,000 square foot warehouse to do a large R&D facility. You're just not going to do it. Regulation provides you that ability, and that's why I think Colorado at this time, Washington catching up, is just a little farther on that game. But it's not because it's not any fault of anyone here.
Right.
It's just a matter of.
And what chunk of your business is oil versus flowers versus edibles? What's the distribution like?
So this is going to change over time because of different features that we roll out, and as our understanding of the market evolves. So currently we're about 85% flower, about 15% others. I think we'll move to a more balanced sort of distribution percentage that more mirrors the market.
Yeah.
Once we develop the tools that producers need specifically to service their current clients.
Oh, I see. I see. So there's a bunch of legacy accounts waiting out there that are sort of feature blocked.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Like, so for instance, let's say you're an edibles company, you distribute to 15 different businesses currently. Well, you don't want to have to put your goods on a marketplace and have people just buy them freely on the marketplace, because you want to make sure you maintain those accounts. So we're just about done with a sort of automatic reorder system. As the inventory drops, or the acceleration and speed in which it drops, there's an automatic reorder point for products that you've told us that you want to keep in stock.
Sure.
And as long as that edible
Amazon Prime.
Right, Amazon Prime. And if that edible product for whatever reason is not available, and you need an edible product to fill that category, we'll provide you an affinity suggestion that might meet your customers' needs.
Got it.
Yeah.
Incredible. Clearly a huge market for it. I'm surprised to hear that it's mainly flowers still. Because if you look at the distribution just in tax revenue, for example, in the state of Colorado, it's a ton of edibles, right? It's actually more edibles today than flowers, I think. Isn't that the distribution that's taken over, or no?
Well, think of it this way. If there was an edible produced, it's because flower moved first.
I see.
Everything starts with flower.
Right.
Everything. Whether you're doing business with edible companies or processors or dispensaries, they all need flower. They don't all necessarily need edibles or concentrates, because they might produce some things in-house. Flower is where it all begins. It's where the whole market, it's where everything moves. And so that's what we concentrate on. It's also the most dynamic and the one that most people have been scared of doing. But once you move past the challenge of doing it and you start to learn about it and you leverage data, which is the most important piece, leveraging the data to help you understand the dynamics, you have a lot of power in how you can help businesses make better decisions and to help sort of tame an unruly market, at least for what they have to interact with.
Got it. So do you have a big percentage of the weight that is lower grade? If it's going to an edible producer or someone that's going to make concentrates, what's the distribution between like the good shit and
and the bad shit?
Yeah.
Well, so some people still buy bad shit to sell. Most people buy, typically trim's an interesting thing. Trim varies all the time, and there's really 3 categories of trim. You've got actual trim. Was it machine cut or hand cut? A little bit of a difference there. Is it popcorn buds? That's going to achieve a higher price point, because to a processor, that's almost a nug run. To a consumer, that's popcorn buds, right? But they kind of produce the same thing. They just don't look as nice. So those actually.
I'm always about it. I'm like, I'll take the last of it. I don't care. I mean, I don't want trim. I don't want shake.
Natural.
But like the little buds, like those fit in the grinder great.
They're all the same after you grind them up, right? And so there's actually some decent product that's it's consumable. If you're not too picky. For like $1,800 a pound. But most of the stuff, when you're talking top shelf in Colorado, it's $3,000 a pound, and that comes in 2 forms: outdoor, organic, well-tended, and then premium indoor. $3,000 a pound right now.
Do you have a preference between those?
I like soil, outdoor, sun-grown.
Really?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm all about that hydro, man.
Are you?
Yeah, I really am.
I mean, I appreciate both. I also take dabs.
Yeah.
So like, so it's not.
The dabs are kind of a crazy thing. I don't know. I think it's very different. I think the whole like oil concentrate is a very different feeling.
It is. I think it's a less fulfilling feeling.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more powerful and like on the edge.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I like it.
Yeah.
But I still
it
prefer
has its place.
flower.
It has its place.
Yeah. Like we're enjoying a whiskey or something. That's one thing. If we went and took like a
well, that's not just
shot.
Apple juice. I thought.
Yeah, it's apple juice. Right? That's right. Yeah. I love apple juice. I actually hate apple juice.
Got it. Well, while we're talking about alcohol,
the
future of Tradiv is pretty interesting.
It could be,
Can you tell us a little bit of your thoughts around that?
Well, so when I was talking about that distributor relationship earlier, that's really the relationship that many industries share. They use a distributor, and I'm not arguing that there's no place for a distributor. I mean, if you're Walmart or Target, that's so many goods that at some point, I think a technology platform could replace that. But that's not something someone's going to disrupt. You know, not right away.
Right.
Not right away. But here's an interesting fact. In, I believe, 1990, don't quote me on this, but in 1990, there were approximately 10 alcohol distributors in the United States that distributed approximately 98% of all goods. Now, between 1990 and 2015, and granted that's a long period of time, but we're talking about combating one antiquated system with another antiquated system. Since then, from those 10 distributors, 2 of them went out of business, and 33,992 started in the last 25 years and have started doing niche distribution throughout the United States and have taken away over 11% of the market share from those top 10 distributors.
Wow.
That's an interesting fact.
Yep.
The industry, I think, is moving away from consolidation.
That means it can be done.
That means it can be done.
Yeah.
It's moving away from consolidation. Cannabis is moving away from consolidation, and we're not consolidated yet. Lots of things are moving away from consolidation because technology allows for there to be fragmentation that's still tied together through a network. Uber is a great example. Talk about a fragmented network of people that have been tied into one cohesive unit to provide transportation for millions every day through a technology platform.
Yep.
Technology enables a lot of things. And in alcohol, I do believe that when the time comes, depending on what direction or inflection, you know, what the inflection point is at the time for Tradiv, that in as little as 10 years, a company like ours or us could move into the alcohol industry and do the very same thing that we're doing in the cannabis industry and achieve you a 20% savings at the consumer level and achieve a 20% increased revenue for the producer.
Wow.
By nothing other than removing an antiquated and unnecessary step from the supply chain and replacing it with a much cheaper, more efficient, technology-based option.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a fantastic analogy is restaurant delivery.
Right.
Right. Which traditionally is controlled by a couple big players. Right. You know, you have the restaurant delivery companies, which I won't name, but that everybody's familiar with. And what they're discovering, and part of this is through OnFleet, so plug announced, is that restaurants can do this themselves.
Absolutely.
Pretty easily, right? And then save so much money.
You don't want to have to manage a delivery person, so don't. Let OnFleet manage the delivery person with you. Make it much easier, you know? And now that piece of the business that was complicated and heavy that you were willing to outsource, you don't have to outsource it anymore, you know? And it's amazing, you know, Moore's Law, you know, the power of the chip, what increases twofold every 18 months or something like that. I'm probably butchering that, but it's something like
I've heard it too,
Right. And so, and I think technology and sort of the ability for businesses to hone in on a pain point and create a solution, we're getting better at that, right? As humans interacting with one another, collectively, we're getting better at that.
Yeah, we're getting really good at discovery.
We're getting very good at discovering it, and so not only is our computing power doubling, you know, every X amount of months, I think the ability for us to solve problems and to create new solutions from almost a conceptual standpoint is increasing and accelerating as well.
The frameworks for education itself have changed. And I think that's really what we're talking about, as opposed to here's the answer to the problem, memorize it. We're now like, here's a problem. There's any number of ways you can solve it. And that's what startups are all about, and clearly that's what you're all about.
Lots of right answers and lots of wrong answers. Pick, hopefully, you know, pick whichever one you want.
Or there is no right or wrong answer. There's different ways to accomplish this goal, right? So totally cool. So that's kind of long term for Tradiv, right? In the short term, you're working on your A, right? Your Series A.
So we are we're looking at we're laying down the foundation right now and meeting the goals for Series A, and we're looking to do that the first quarter of next year. We haven't determined the exact amount or the valuation, but we've got a ton of support from the community. We've got a ton of support from our board and our investors, and we're meeting the metrics and we're doing really well. And we're looking to bring that to Oregon and to Washington next year, and a couple other states, to include a beta in California the year after. And so that's exactly where that money is going to be going.
Got it. And tell me a little bit about that process. When did you raise the seed, and how did those conversations go for the first time? You know?
Oh sure, yeah. We can talk a little bit about investment. So we were in the Canopy Boulder program. So we were about 2 months into the program before we announced the seed round when we were ready. with our prototype, and that was, I think, in June. And so we were able to raise, we went to $1 million. We were able to raise that fairly quickly. But there was certainly a lot of uncertainties there, especially leading up to, say, your first investor. You know, the first big commitment that you got. You know, that's a very nervous ride, and then after that, it's a big roller coaster. And now looking back in hindsight, it's so funny because I was like, man, we had nothing to worry about. But that's only in hindsight.
Right.
You know? And so, you know, the conversations, I think...
It's probably good that you didn't realize that then, right?
Like, that might be...
fire is like...
Yeah, for sure, right?
Although you have no lack of fire. So
yeah, I know. I need to tone it down.
No, you're chill, man. You're chill. Go ahead.
So it's... yeah, so it was interesting. I think... I suppose the best piece of advice I could give to fellow entrepreneurs that are going through a similar situation is that you have to make sure that you have the knowledge that empowers you to have the right conversations and to use the right terms and to understand what those terms mean. And so when you lay out your documentation, your pro forma, your P&L, your valuation model, that you can talk to those confidently, right? You need to empower yourself with knowledge to have those conversations. And when you sit down with investors and you talk about, the tangible stuff, that's easy. You don't want to give somebody a reason to say no during tangible stuff, you know? Just make sure that you're set, you're ready to go, and that you're empowered with the knowledge. And then when you get to talk about the secret sauce and what makes you you and what makes your business special, you know, that's your opportunity to shine. But you never get to that opportunity if you haven't laid the foundation with the things that you have to get right. You know, regardless of
So there's a certain just validation process before they even listen to who you are. Right?
Absolutely.
Fascinating.
And it starts with the documentation.
And what do you think prepared you for that? You know, how were you ready for those conversations?
I think there's a couple. I've had the luck and opportunity to gain a lot of tangible business skills, you know, through my career, to include, you know, like an MBA. And when you take classes in, say, corporate finance, I mean, other than doing corporate finance, there's not a ton of other ways to understand corporate finance other than to take a class on it, you know? But at the same time, with that being said, there are alternate ways to sort of educate yourself, and I think that's reading, you know? Go to a meeting and you get stumped on a question, you better go read everything about that so it never stumps you again, and shame on you if it does. You know?
Brad Feld has an amazing book. Anybody that wants to check it out,
he does.
About, you know, being smarter than your VC and your lawyer, and it's pretty good stuff.
There's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. My lawyer and I have a peer-to-peer discussion typically when we're talking about these, and we're developing a strategy together. I'm not asking her what a convertible note means. You know, and that's very important. It's very, the amount of money you're paying to your lawyer every hour means a lot more if you guys can have a peer-to-peer discussion, right? It's a more valuable discussion. You got to read if you don't understand, and actually, you know, and surround yourselves with experts or people more experienced that you can draw upon their knowledge and experience. I mean, you know, that's anything. If you assume that you know it all, you've already lost. You know, you have to read, you have to recognize that you're going to have weaknesses, and you have to surround yourself with people, you know, to help you compensate for those weaknesses.
And continuously learn.
Absolutely, and strive to improve.
So you mentioned law for a second, which is a really interesting topic in your case because you're moving very, very high valuables that are recently legal, right? And I wonder, I know that you use...
It's a little trippy, right? $170,000 worth of marijuana being transacted in a single transaction. You're like... that can't be true. And it's numbers on a page, but you know what that looks like, right? And that's crazy. But it's happening.
So how much liability do you retain? I mean, I know you're using courier partners, right? He's also going to be using OnFleet in conjunction with some courier partners. So full discretion there.
Is that 3 plugs?
3 plugs.
You're only allowed 4.
Dude, I'm the worst.
I plug 4 is the max.
I plug Meadow all the time too. I'm like, shout out David Hua.
I know, dude. David's awesome. I love Meadow.
Okay. So I only get one more plug. I'll save it. I'll make it careful.
Save it for the very end.
The question is, you have these courier partners, right? So the courier partners, how much liability do you retain, and how much do they?
So here's the basic thing: is that you know, if you're a producer and you want to have absolute control, well, you should probably just ship it yourself. You know, you should probably sell it yourself if you want to have absolute control. But what I'd argue is you don't need absolute control because there's a lot of other ethical business owners out there and a lot of other people playing by the rules. In fact, there's a lot of regulation to make sure that they do. It's not, it's not 2000 anymore. It's not even 2008 anymore. It's a much different environment. And so, what we do is we have some pretty strict terms and conditions that sort of lay out what our involvement is. And what our involvement is that we help facilitate trade. And so if there's a problem, we help facilitate the resolution of that problem. It doesn't mean that we ultimately have the ability to resolve the problem. If someone sells you marijuana with mold on it, and you pay them, and they don't want to accept it back, well, that's any situation, right? That could happen under any circumstances. When the transporter gets there with the product, you can still refuse it. It's okay. They'll take it back.
Yep.
And so if you don't refuse it and you accept it, well, now there's a little bit of a return sort of problem here. Now, we've had a couple RMAs, and we've never had a bad situation. We've never even had sort of uncooperative clients. I'm just saying that's the worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario is that two businesses...
You don't want it, you return it.
You don't want it, you return it, right? And our transporters are insured up to the maximum value of the contents they carry. We vet them and check their underwriter before we onboard them. And we do that to make sure that neither our clients nor us, nor the transporters that we've put in a poor position ever put in the position to sort of be liable for something they cannot, they can't take care of, right? You don't want to have that's the sort of situation that leads to legal action. So we've created a construct of rules within this ecosystem that everyone has to abide by. And as long as everybody abides by those rules, we can avoid 99.5% of those problems before they arise. And if they arise, we've got another set of rules that we paid a lot of money to have put in place to make sure that everyone's governed by a sort of collective trade agreement. It says we will behave this way. And if we don't behave this way, this is the repercussion.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're clearly all above board, and doing things the right way is really important to you.
Right,
I can feel that. Do your peers follow the same rules? I mean, are there people in this industry that are breaking rules and just don't care about it? Or I mean, that you've come across anyway.
Yeah, we had a so one of our businesses didn't want to play by the rules, and they put product up when it wasn't available. They shipped a product with mold on it, and we had a couple issues with them, and so we suspended them from the system.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave; they want to come back. But when they come back, they better play by the rules or they're gone.
Yeah.
And so we just don't work with assholes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole value of your business is liability.
Right.
Right? So if you have a couple bad actors like that, you're just there's no room for error.
No, and it poisons the pool.
Yeah. Sure.
We have a lot of people that are literally, hey, it's business, right? But they're working together. We don't, and it's beautiful. We don't need somebody to ruin that. So I actually think they'll come around. Some operational changes, and they'll be okay. But that's another great thing is if this was just a website, who's to vet all that stuff? There's real live human beings making sure this works for people.
Got it.
Right, and when that stuff happens, there's real live human beings resolving it for you. To make sure it doesn't happen.
And who are those people? Tell us about the team a little bit.
Yeah, so John's our director of client engagement. He's awesome, and so his job literally is to make customers happy. Like, John, do whatever you have to do, but your job is to make customers happy, and he does a great job doing it.
Cool.
And then we have Cecilia. She's our director of trade, and so as you can imagine, business owners are busy, right? There might be a great opportunity for them that just came up on the marketplace. They don't know about it. Well, Cecilia and her team of account executives that work for her know exactly what you need, and they know exactly what you want to sell. And so as products become available, our account executives and our director of trade help make sure that you know about the deals you want, and it drives a lot of trade. We're not selling for people. We're enlightening them to opportunities. They can make the decision, right? And that's what she does, is she spends every day helping business owners find great opportunities, and they love her for it. And so those are really that dynamic. The
solution architect is a word that gets thrown around in this town.
Solution architect?
Yes.
Man, San Francisco loves to make up titles.
We do. But that's the key there. We're just making them up.
Solution architect.
It's like in one room we make up titles, in the other room we make up valuations. You know,
Right.
That's kind of the way
I
it works.
wanted to be called the Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces when I was taking my position. They said I had to stick with CEO, which is fine too.
You can call yourself whatever you want.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So
what do you call yourself?
I am customer development.
Customer development.
Yeah.
I feel like in San Francisco that should be way cooler.
Well, we're a B2B company, so
that's true. It doesn't have to be quite sexy. So are we.
You're among the coolest of the people that I talk to, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I know. B2B. We can be a little stodgy sometimes.
So back to the team. Are you hiring anybody? Are you looking to build up the team?
Well, so we've actually made a couple hires recently. A couple new account executives.
Cool.
We're bringing on a supply chain engineer from Procter & Gamble, which is very exciting to help build supply chains in these new states. You know, he's been doing it for continents. He can manage Oregon and Washington, so probably in conjunction with our next round, towards the end of next quarter, we'll be hiring quite a few different technical engineers. We already have an architect, a couple other positions there, but really we're looking for very good talent in Washington, Oregon, and the Colorado areas for both trade, director of trade position I talked about, and typically those people come from some sort of broker background. So they've been doing this. They've been doing this in an official capacity for some time, but not at scale. And we're bringing in their expertise and their contacts and their knowledge of the state, right, and the environment. And that's a really key piece to our business. And so typically we bring them in pretty early on, so we're looking for those in Oregon and Washington. And then we're actually hiring we have a regional director for Washington currently, but we're looking for a regional director in Colorado. And that's a position that's very hard to solicit for. You just have to find the right person.
Right, yeah. And is that what you spend a lot of time doing?
I spend a lot of time on culture and recruiting and strategy. And the team does a great job at execution. Of course, I help there, but I don't have to help much. They've got it covered.
Yeah, sounds like you have an awesome team. How big's the team now?
So we've got, so I think with this most recent hire, we'll be at 14. We'll be at 14 total.
Very similar. We're about 14.
Is that right? Yeah. Well, you guys are a little more efficient, I think. You guys do a lot with
We have a pretty big impact, but thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
For the record, I didn't say the name of the company, so that's not my fourth plug, I don't think.
No, you didn't. No, that doesn't count.
I didn't. I'm good. Okay, cool. All right, so recruiting, you spend a lot of time recruiting, a lot of time strategy, and then you're fundraising, right? So how is that round coming together? Where do you stand with it?
The one coming up soon? Yeah, so we have a tremendous amount of interest. We're trying to find the best money from the interest as far as who can help us grow and scale the fastest. You know, because there is, we have a wide range of investors, and some of them outright I'm a passive investor, and that's fine. Especially in a seed round, that's fine. We're not going to turn away a passive investor because they're a passive investor.
Is your seed mainly angels? I mean, I know Canopy Boulder's a little part of that.
Let's see. Our
1.5 seed, correct? That's what you said?
It was our seed was only one.
One. Okay.
Yeah, it could have been one. We could have gone to 1.5. We decided at the time to keep it at one in order to preserve equity for the team.
Yeah.
And so our round was actually about half and half. So it was about half private equity and actually one syndication, and then about half angels.
Okay.
And we've got some great angels on our in our portfolio, but at the end of the day, our investors who are involved the most are our most valuable investors.
Sure.
They give us so much more than just capital, and they're instrumental to what we're doing. Emily and Morgan from Poseidon are absolutely fabulous board members.
Shout out Poseidon. Go back and watch that episode, guys.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good episode. Yeah, absolutely. Our friends at Anslinger Capital, Anthony Davis and his guys, are great investors. They make a lot happen for us. So
where's Anslinger? Where are they based?
They're based out of Seattle.
Got it.
And so when you have a lot of interest, it takes a little bit of time to weed through the gems, from the grab.
Yeah, there's a lot of bullshit investors out there.
Yeah, there are.
I kind of have a continued mantra on this show of a lot of corny, tire kicking assholes out there. They look a lot of decks and are interested but never write any checks, right?
Sure, that happens a lot. I think a lot of people like
How do you cut through the noise? Is you just look at what else they've invested in?
Yeah, sure. I can tell you. So this is typically like typically conversation is so is this your first? Would this be your first cannabis investment? Yes or no? All right, that's a good sign. If it's yes, that's kind of a bit of a flag.
Sure.
Right. It's not to say they're not legitimate, but it's a flag.
Yeah.
You know. And so my next question would be, okay, so how long until you're looking to invest in this space? Or to make your next investment, 3 to 6 months, a year, right then and there. You know, hopefully they're being honest enough that
They say a year.
a year. Like we don't really need to talk that much. Then we can talk at the next round, perhaps, right?
Right.
Something like that. So when you're looking to make an investment, I will sometimes ask who's in your portfolio.
Yeah.
If I have a sneaking suspicion that they're not legitimate, say who's in your portfolio. You know, when's the last time you made a cannabis investment? You know. How much are you looking, this is the best question, how much are you looking to invest into the cannabis space, specifically technology within the cannabis space, in the next 3 months?
Yeah.
None. Okay, great. You know, let's move on.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for your time. And no
hard feelings.
No hard feelings at all.
Totally.
But that's, you know.
I got to be efficient with my life.
Everyone wants to be polite, and everyone wants to be at the center of attention.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we've got investors that are pretending to write checks they're not really writing, so they want to be at the center of attention.
Sure.
And you know what? More power to you.
Yeah.
But as an entrepreneur, I need to protect my time,
Right.
you know, that I'm investing into the investment process, and just try to find a quick way to sort of vet those leads so that I can find the best investors first. And in this case, in our Series A, it's a little bit different because we actually have, you know, a lot of great leads. It's actually a matter of who is it that we want to have on the team for growth purposes.
It's an incredible problem
because
to have.
it's an incredible problem. It's an incredible problem to have, but the problem we're solving is also an incredible problem to have to try to solve.
Sure.
And it requires a lot of support, right? It is hard. That's why there's been 12 companies that have tried to do what we've done.
Really?
Oh yeah.
12.
12. Yeah, across the board,
And
different
why
states.
did they
different,
fail?
Because I think because they didn't have the right team. They didn't have the right vision. They didn't have the right timing. They didn't have the capital. It's a very challenging problem to even attempt to solve. It took us $1 million to launch an experiment and to prove that the experiment worked. $1 million. And an exceptional team.
And how do you know the experiment worked?
Well, you know, we had a great product market fit. We're growing 5% day over day, 60% month over month. Revenue's growing.
60% month over month.
Growth, right? We're adding 2 to 3 businesses per day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the revenue is growing commensurately. So we had actually initially anticipated that the average client value would be somewhere around $350 total, ever, for small and medium-sized businesses. Yeah. What we found is even early on, waiving our subscription fee for the first 3 months, our average client value is $750 per month. And we have a client that's netting us over $15,000 a month, one client. That was not the expectations. No one knew what the pricing and this whole piece was going to look like. We had no idea. It was an experiment. And the experiment turned out to be a much more valuable product than we had thought. And so, you know, that's how we know it's a success, is that, you know, I think when you can turn somebody that's been doing something for 5 years one way, and in 4 orders, take them to $350,000 of revenue over the course of 2 weeks, and convert them into a lifetime Tradiv customer, that means the experiment worked.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the early success, man. That's incredible. But what it really means to me is for all the founders out there listening, basically cannabis is ripe for any kind of change, right?
Ripe for innovation.
People are ready to embrace a better option, and it's still so young that if you think you have a good idea, run with it. You know, be there. Right. Yeah, very, very cool. So with those kind of growth numbers, we're talking about a pretty sizable A round. Do you have a number in mind?
I'm not going to let the number out right now.
Okay.
It's too early. The board and I even have yet to have a discussion as a whole on the topic, and so but we're having that discussion very soon, and everyone's excited to have the discussion.
Got it.
And so we're talking about a sizable A round, and we have a lot of ambition, and we're building a team for mock speed. And I think our investors know that now, and that's why we have their support. And we're doing some interesting things that I don't think startups typically do. And it's just like moving fast in an environment as complicated as this, you know, where we're regularly dealing with regulators. I have at least 3 meetings with 3 different regulatory bodies in 3 different states over the course of a month. I don't know the last startup that had to deal with that level of complexity, including all of the normal things you have to do to run a business.
Sure.
To include the financial piece of moving money within the cannabis industry. To include trying to conduct business development with people that have been used to doing this in the dark for 20 years. You combine all those things and also move as quickly as we're moving. And that whole process requires people and talent that may not be commensurate with a traditional startup at this stage, but our growth numbers and the numbers we're putting on the board at this early stage are also not commensurate with what you traditionally see out of a B2B SaaS company after 50 days. And so that's what I mean by we're just doing something interesting. We've got some awesome traction and an awesome future, and we're seizing it right now. Right.
Wow. That was a hell of a pitch, man. Congratulations on that. Yeah, fuck yeah. That was great. Fuck yeah. Cool. What else should we talk about here? Well, we've come to...
How much time do we have? What time? What are we on
there are no limits.
There's no limits.
Yeah, there's no limits. I just talk until we're kind of done. But anyway, we've come to my favorite portion of the show. I'm fascinated by these brilliant entrepreneurs, how they consume cannabis in their personal life, right? So, what kind of strains do you like? Do you have a favorite strain?
I do Skywalker, man.
Skywalker. Why?
I have back pain.
Yep.
And Skywalker.
'Cause you're tall. Tall people just have back pain, right?
What's that?
Tall people.
Tall people. I was in the military. We carried around a lot of heavy shit for a long time.
What branch of the military?
I was in the Marines.
Got it.
Yeah, for about 8 years. And so you carry around heavy stuff. Tall people. I mean, backs just it's not a good combination.
Yeah.
So, but Skywalker does it for me, dude.
Got it.
Yeah, I love Skywalker.
And how do you consume? What?
Oh man, so I'm a consumer. I like my team. When my team has questions on concentrates, they're like, ask the CEO, right?
Nice.
Which is I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Just between us, I think it's cool.
Just between us.
Just between
Don't
us.
worry, no one watches the show,
right,
so it's cool.
Well, I hope that's not the case. You told me there's a lot of people. So no, I enjoy my concentrates. I enjoy edibles as well. I think if you were to say, hey, you can only smoke pot one way for the rest of your life, I would have to debate between the bong and a joint.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Well, that's where I would be too. I think that I do eventually side on the bong side, or specifically a bubbler. I just got a pretty good Custom Creations bubbler. Shout out Custom Creations.
Yeah.
Maybe we put their ad right here.
Yeah.
Give us some money.
Yeah, they actually paid to do that. Don't let them. They didn't actually do that.
If that were true, that would be the most amazing native advertising that I just slipped in here.
God.
But anyway, triple ratchet bubbler.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a little smaller too. Right. It's a very manageable kind of Wednesday night type piece.
I'm getting excited now. Yeah.
And well, you can come over and check it out if you want. Yeah. But anyway, that's what I'm smoking on currently, and I think it's just more versatile. The joint is really nice. It's kind of communal and social, and I love to roll joints as well.
Yeah, sure. But it takes a little more time and a little more deliberation, though. It's nice to just be able to crush it, drop it, put it in the bowl.
And it's also not as clean, right? A joint, you still got the papers, and it's not filtered at all. So
I mean, you can smoke a pinner, but then it's more paper. It's that's kind of a lot of effort for a little, just packable.
Yeah, I kind of have a rule. I don't really roll a joint unless there's 3 people.
Okay.
I don't really roll a 2-person joint.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely not a single-person joint, maybe, unless you're going on a hike or something.
That's a whole different.
Yeah.
There are exceptions to every rule.
There's exceptions to every rule.
There are exceptions to every rule.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually enjoying my vape exhale right now. Shout out for vape exhale.
Yeah, what's up, Sabo?
Yeah, Sabo. Yeah, I've been using this honeycomb right now. It's great. I'm really enjoying the vape X nail. Right, so for dabbing.
Yep.
I know everyone's like, oh, I want to drop it into the hot nail, okay, I realize there's some fun about that, but dude, Sabo shit's easy as fuck.
Yeah.
It's so easy, right? You just drop it in, and you wait for it to smoke, you put it on the top, you take it all, and you're done. It's so easy.
Incredible.
And it tastes great.
I love that. You can attach it to any of your existing bubblers or bongs or whatever.
Totally. Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Which is
Sabo
really
was showing
cool.
me that yesterday.
Yeah, with the silicone.
Any other Poseidon portfolio companies you want to shout out here?
Certainly. So so some more Poseidon. So I think the one I will shout out is Headset. headset with Cy and Brian and Scott. That great team, great product. They're competing with Roy Bingham's company, BDS.
Yep.
So that'll be an interesting competition.
I'll write your fellow Canopy Boulder classmate.
Yeah, absolutely.
How was Canopy? How was that experience?
Yeah, no, it was good.
Yeah,
it was good. No, I think like with many accelerators, you get out of it, and with anything in life, you get out of it what you put into it, right? They're providing you a springboard, an opportunity, validation, credibility, contacts, and networks. Use them, leverage them, and if you do that, it's absolutely worth it. Mm-hmm. But like anything in anything in life, if you don't seize a fleeting opportunity and you lose it,
sure,
you didn't maximize the value of the program.
Yep.
And that's with any accelerator or anything in life, I think.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been a part of a couple accelerators, observed a lot of stuff. And the ones that are kind of stand out and are really loud and like email you all the time and ask kind of questions, those are the ones that get the most value out of it, which is no surprise. Right. Yeah. Because, I mean, accelerators, incubators are typically like 1 or 2 nights a week, right? Like I know Canopy's a little different than that, but yeah, so you have to kind of grasp your touch points, Yeah, Canopy's full-time all day.
Full-time all day for 3 months,
Yeah, quite immersive, yeah. Interesting.
I think legitimately, we accomplished in 3 months what it would have taken 9 months with hard work.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
No kidding. Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Well, plug some stuff. Tradiv. Is it .com?
Yeah, Tradiv.com.
Tradiv.com.
It's for the average consumer who visits our site, they'll see a great portal. Where they could log in. But then they can't.
Right, they can't.
But unfortunately, that's how the rules work.
Yeah,
when you're talking about B2B trade and regulated market. But for cannabis businesses in Colorado specifically, we are moving flower in nearly less than 24 hours in most cases, achieving above market rates, and are very excited about what we're doing. And have a very excited team that work hard, and they do a good job. And we'd love to have you as a client.
And if somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they want to work at Tradiv, if they want to be a customer, what's your email?
So, all right. So if you want to work at Tradiv, you can email info@tradiv.com. Ryan will pick it up, and Ryan's our Chief Operations Officer.
Cool.
And he's my vetting program because we actually get a lot of employment inquiries.
Got it.
Most of them are weird.
Right.
And,
I love weed.
I love.
Let me work.
We get a lot of those. Yeah, we get a lot of those. Yeah, I really like weed and like. Are you guys hiring?
Yes.
Yes, and yes. Not maybe. We'll talk later, right?
So if you want to invest in Tradiv.
If you want to invest in Tradiv, you can email me. It's Aeron, A-E-R-O-N. I should tell the camera. I was like looking at the bathroom over here and talking to the bathroom, and I'm like, they don't really need my email.
I should do an episode in the bathroom. So
that'd be interesting.
It'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah, or just start there and like slowly.
Right.
Yeah. So Aeron, A-E-R-O-N @tradiv.com, and I would say we're only accepting accredited investors, except that kind of changed recently.
Yeah, it did.
And I don't really know what that means. But if you're not an accredited investor and weren't even a month ago, I'm not sure we'd be the right fit. But we could certainly talk about it, I suppose.
We could certainly send him an email.
We could certainly send me an email. Aeron@tradiv.com. Yeah, absolutely. I like talking to people, so we can just have a chat.
What other networks do you like? Do you like Instagram, Twitter? Are you active at all anywhere?
So I actually hate social media.
Okay.
But our chief marketing officer loves it.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, and she does a great job.
Okay.
She keeps me as engaged as I have to be.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't.
Why do you hate social? We got to back. Why do you hate social media?
I think it's because it's like a time suck.
Yeah,
man. It's like even on my phone, like I don't even like it, and then Facebook, it's like 5 notifications. I'm like, well, I should get rid of that little red 5, so I'm gonna check it. And then when I add that up at the end of the week, I'm like, how much time did I spend just checking all of these notifications?
But you should do that. You can just like not have it notify you.
I could just delete it off my phone. But Lisa would not like that.
Yeah.
And so
I won't be tweeting at you.
No,
soon.
There's an interesting. I think it's called. What is there? So there's a new, basically LinkedIn.
Yeah.
For cannabis professionals. That's being rolled out.
Okay.
And the name escapes me right now.
Yeah, we'll find it.
But maybe we can put it on the YouTube post or something.
Maybe a producer can find it.
Yeah, maybe he can find it. Yeah. And so anyhow. I think that's going to be an interesting thing to come to fruition. It's really like, LinkedIn's a little bit. If you're in your network on LinkedIn, you're in your network.
Yeah.
But cannabis hasn't really developed one yet.
Right.
And so this is the attempt to sort of bridge that sort of thing.
I see.
And to take it to another level because there's a lot of people that have you meet someone that's like, oh, I've been in cannabis for 25 years. That can mean two things. I could trust you. I could also not trust you.
Yeah, you could also be a criminal.
What kind of business were you doing in cannabis for the last 25 years?
Yeah,
It depends. You're a cultivator? Awesome. Well, I can move weed like across the country. Like, nah, okay, well, let's see, right?
Yeah.
But this one is supposed to know. This one's supposed to kind of tell you who your networks are as far as trust value goes. Not necessarily just we know each other. How well do we know each other? And in a market,
it's like a validation score.
Right. In an industry like this, when you're trying to make connections with people, there might be some value to that. That's an interesting one that I was just turned on to last night, and I'll be interested in checking that one out.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we'll try to get them on the show as well too.
Yeah. Oh, well, we could certainly make that introduction.
Yeah. Sweet, man.
Cool.
Well, this has been a pleasure.
Yeah, me too.
It's been really fun.
Yeah.
Thanks again for coming here.
Thanks
We
for
had some
having
scheduling stuff, and you're all the way in San Diego and then Colorado. But
I know
so
it's
happy
been a
to
while.
have
We've
you
been
here.
trying to do this for like months, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And in the interim, you became an on-fleet customer. There we go. There's number 4, guys.
And that was organic, too.
That was organic.
Good job.
Everything I do is organic. Did you see there's no notes here? I didn't read anything.
No,
it's just you and I.
It's amazing.
Hanging out.
Yeah.
I think it gives it like kind of authentic.
Interview
feel,
Ackerman is just radiating off of you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. This is episode 20, I think.
20-ish.
19. Yeah, 19. And I've gotten good at it, I think. I don't know.
I feel like there's
a lot of room to grow.
Sure. There's always room to improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aeron, it's a pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for
too,
coming.
Man. Yeah, for
Good
sure.
to see you.
Yeah. Me too.
Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.